Oh, there we go. Hello, merry meet, and welcome to What We Love About Scream 4, which is a lot. And we're going to get into it with my very special guest tonight. First, he made a freaking Scream movie, so you know we had to have him on this show. Welcome, KillJoy Jake.
Hello, hello. How's it going?
Good. I love all your ghost faces.
Thank you so much.
Is that like a Jamaican ghost face, like Jamaican flag one?
This is a pride flag one, which I like. Thought I had to have it on the set. It's a wonderful. And then I got a scary movie one. I'm really bad at pointing, so I hope I'm hitting all the right beats with where I'm pointing.
Laser pointer.
I do. You know what? I should invest. I should invest in
you
one.
You really should, start using those Patreon funds. And next up, you know him, you love him, you saw him last week and he was great then. He's going to be great now. It is, dun, 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 the Bearded Entertainment.
You know, I realized that nothing you said about me would be as cool as he made a Scream movie. So I'm like, okay, I'm here, I guess.
If it makes you feel better, I can't grow any facial hair.
That, I'm going to be honest, it does make me feel
good. Okay. Hey, there you go, man.
So there's that. And of course, we're rocking some great Ghostface shirt. I got my Ghostface dress, the shirt, the headband. What you got? What you got there, Jake?
I got a little there we go. Scary movies and chill shirt.
I love it. I love it.
The arms have to come all the way out so that you can see it. Yes.
And I'm very excited. Very good friend who's not well, so he will not have his camera on. But of course, Craven something scary. How you doing, buddy?
Hey guys, how are y'all doing?
Oh, honey. Oh, honey.
Hey.
So you guys know how we do it here on the Gory B Movie channel, here in the Gory Hole. When one of our own isn't doing well, we do magic because it's a witch show. So I need all of you to put all your healing energy into your belly and just project that into space with a Care Bear stare for Craven so that he heals. Because he's good people. He's good people.
Thank you.
Did you feel that? Did it just like knock your ass back?
I did. Actually, my hospital bed literally reclined back literally right now at the same time.
Freaking knew it.
It's awesome.
Freaking knew it. Let's see who we got in the chat. So we got Jason, the nice one. Mr. Flickster, Gamer Freak. Hello. I have not seen you in the Gory Hole before, but welcome. First few rows do get wet. Connie Cleary, how's it going? All right, guys. Sarah Campbell, David Lewis, Ariel's here. Ooh, Horror Addicts. I hear he's taking a bath, so
Did you say Gamer Freak?
Huh?
Did you say Gamer Freak?
I did.
Okay, they followed me over. I just did a stream, and Gamer Freak was there. I believe they won a drawing from some trivia I did. So thank you for coming over, Gamer Freak. I told everyone about the stream.
Him, guys.
Hi.
Yeah, pretty cool. May Ann's here, Blucka. We got a full house in the Gory Hole. I'm really excited. I'm excited to talk about this movie. So, introducing Scream 4. Just a reminder, guys, these streams, I don't think there's a bad Scream movie. And so these streams, we're celebrating what we love about them. We're not going to be crapping on any of them. I don't really want to hear anyone's nitpicks about them because that's just not fun for me. We're going to talk about why we love this movie because this movie is incredible. It's underrated as all hell. It's considered, even though it made money back, it had a $40 million budget. It made like $97 million. It's considered to be a box office bomb. There was going to be a whole second trilogy, and that got nixed because they were disappointed in it. And I honestly blame the marketing team because I don't know about you guys. I don't remember like any trailers for this. I remember a few TV spots.
Yep.
Not a lot. There was not a whole lot of marketing with this movie. It's a shame. This is maybe my favorite sequel too. Hot take. I really like this one. It's a shame they didn't have enough faith in it. Words.
It's a bummer. It really is. This came out on April 11th, 2011, 11 years after Scream 3 came out. And it is also the lowest grossing Scream movie of the franchise. It's also the second to lowest rated on Rotten Tomatoes, second only to Scream 3. It's rated lower than the Scream TV show, guys. Come on. Come on. If you're a Scream approved or Rotten Tomatoes approved critic, what are you doing with your life? Like, get over there and fix this. This is wrong.
Obviously, they're not watching the Scream movies, is what they're not doing.
It should not be rated so low. And a lot of the critic reviews, like Roger Ebert and everyone, were all like saying it was cliche, it was tired, it was unoriginal. And I disagree. We're going to get into why I disagree, but I feel like this movie was well ahead of its time, and it took the things that we love and it gave them a new twist. So first I want to know, what were your guys' first impressions of Scream 4? When did you see it? You know, happy memories. Or no, what were they?
This was my first Scream movie. This is the first one I ever watched. I was really young. I was so excited. I had saw David Arquette in Eight-Legged Freaks, and I was like, I want to see more movies with him. And this movie was just coming out, and I remember my parents got it or whatever, and we watched it. I loved it. It was like, oh, it's so good. And Jill really got me. You know, I didn't see that coming. I loved it. It's a fond memory because it's my first. It was my first entry point into this franchise. It was great.
For me, it was the first one I got to see in theaters. This was one of those, I was freshly back from deployment while I was in the Navy, and I'm like, oh, there's a new Scream movie? And it was the first one I got to see in theaters, so it very much has a fond place in my heart because of that. I too, when I saw Jill, I was like, okay, that was a good spin. I don't know what they're talking about. And like, these critics have no clue about horror movies, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. For me, it was the fourth Scream film I saw in a theater. I'm so happy to say I got to see every theater on opening night except for Scream 4, because guess what? I didn't even know it was out. That's how bad the marketing was in my area. I had no idea the movie was in theaters. It was already out for like 2 weeks before I found out. I was like, wait a second. I said, there's a new Scream movie. What are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, man, there's this at the theaters. I'm like, dude. So I immediately went and saw it, of course, right away. And I got to see it in the XD theater. It's a little larger screen, which was cool. But it also, Jake, as you know, we've had many discussions. It's my second favorite Scream film as well, my favorite sequel, and for many reasons. There's a lot of things we'll get into, I'm sure, but I will tell you this: I remember that the Weinsteins destroyed this trilogy. That's really did.
One thing that makes me sad about this is Wes felt like they meddled so much. He said it wasn't even his movie anymore, and it's just like, this was his last movie, and it makes me. That's my only grievance, really, is that he didn't enjoy making his last film.
Yeah, they got in there and meddled a lot, but he also, like he's done with 3 and with others, he did some stuff, his way as well. And I remember that the scene. One thing I think of, Gory, is the scene where Anthony Perkins, which is my second favorite kill of the movie, with Deputy Perkins, and in the script, all it was there was Perkins gets stabbed. That's all it said. And so Wes said, I want to do something really crazy with this one. And so he came in that morning of shoot, and he told his effects team, his prop team, he said, guys, here's what I want to do. He said, I want us to get this done. He didn't run it by the Weinsteins, by the way. He didn't say, hey, we're going to do this crazy stunt with this in the forehead. He said, we're going to shoot this. And he's like, oh, his effects team got all real excited. They're all like giddy because they were going to pull off this really cool kill. And so they shot it that way. And Wes said he never told the Weinsteins about it until it was at the premiere. It was like, he never said, hey, we're going to do this crazy kill and try to, he didn't care if they approved it or not. He said, we're just doing it. We're going to do this thing. And I'll never forget that story. It was really cool.
Yeah, and Wes Craven is somebody where a lot of his inspiration comes from things he reads in the news or true stories. And that was one where he heard about a guy who went into the hospital with a knife in his forehead and just took himself to the hospital. He thought it was the craziest thing. And so a lot of people don't like that kill because they think it's unrealistic, but it's one of those stranger than fiction kind of things.
That's right.
One of my favorite stories of what Wes Craven, did to contribute to this film is they shot this film in Michigan, which is weird. It's back in Woodsboro, but it's shot in Michigan. And they're location scouting, and he finds this really cool bookstore. It's called Next Chapter, which fits the movie really well. Books, and it was just opening, and he loved it. So he's like, "Oh, we're gonna have this in the movie." That's where they do Sydney's book signing or reading, and they have a chef. He had the chef cook the meal that's eaten in the film. So it's just really cool that he does these little touches, and you know how much that probably made that person's they probably tell that story all the time. How Wes Craven came into their bookstore and was just infatuated with it.
I would. I tell that for years to come.
Heck yeah.
I just
no
think
better way to
so
market.
Cool. He's a legend, and he's still does these little things that are awesome. Nice to see Kevin and Mayanne and my really good friend Rich, the Movie Massacre here, and King Gore. Welcome. So the plot in a nutshell. Hit it, guys. You guys got this.
Plot in a nutshell. So it starts off with an opening kill. Oh,
but starts off with a lot of them.
Yeah, but it's not just one opening kill. Oh, it's two. Oh, wait, it's three.
No, it's
three different scenes all together. How do we feel about that, gentlemen and lady? Sorry.
Oh, I actually have a question from you guys. I asked the B Movie Kevin earlier if they had any questions, and this one's from Jason the Nice One. He said, how do you feel about the fake beginnings of the start of Scream 4? For me, it added the fun and was a great way to start the film. I loved it. I loved that because at this point we expect whoever's in the beginning to die, and they do die, but then it's part of the movie. It's like, okay, so that was an interesting way of doing it. Now these guys, it faked me out, and it told us what's been happening with Stab. We've had a break from Scream, but we have not had a break from Stab. I love that the fifth one's time travel. I need to see this. I need this in my life so much. I love the cameos. I think Kirsten Bell is so funny in it. I love it so much. I think it's incredible.
I'll just echo that real quick, Gory. I feel the same way as you. I'm one of those also that love the fake out openings. And I'll tell you, the first time you see that, at least for me, I was like, wait a second. Oh, this is cool. Okay. And then you think the second one's going to have to be real, right? After the first one. And you're watching it and there's Kirsten Bell. And then all of a sudden, Stab 7. And I'm like, what? This is insane. I actually really was a fan of it. I still am. And even though I know what's going to happen, I still really enjoy now watching those fake outs. So, Gory, you and I are in tune on that one. I think it's fun. Yeah.
Am I the odd one out on the panel?
That's okay. Yeah.
That's okay.
I like the first one. I like the first fake out, but I can't stop thinking about how Stab recognizes Stab, because the beginning of Stab 7, they're watching Stab 6.
That's 3 levels of meta.
At that point, it's not even meta. It's that would be. I don't know. Like I said, I love the movie.
A Stab movie within a Scream movie.
If it would have been another movie at the beginning, if they would have been watching, if the movie would have been called screaming, and then it was Stab 7 was watching that, I would have zero qualms with it. But like, I just can't stop thinking about how Stab references Stab as a property. So for me, it'd be like if Scream 6 opens with them watching Scream 5.
They kind of do though with Stab. And it ties into what this movie's about. It's about remakes. It's about, playing around with nostalgia. And it shows that Stab is doing that. Stab always echoes what's going on with Scream. So I feel like it introduced us to what this movie's going to be about right away. I also think it's great that they found people who are like the head of each one of those girls is the head of their own TV show. You've got like Anna Paquin with True Blood, and the girl from Sacred Circle, and the girl from Friday Night Lights, and they got like really great actresses. Lucy Hale. I just think it's so fun. I love Anna Paquin in it. I love when they have the character, and usually it's one of the major characters, like Jada Pinkett, did it in the beginning, but usually it's like someone like Sydney, who is the person who is the voice of the people who don't like horror movies. And they have Anna Paquin, and we've all heard it. That's why I do these streams about what we love about, because I hear enough mainstream audiences talking about what they don't love about horror movies. I don't choose to spend my time investing in that. But Anna Paquin, like, I've heard that rant so many times. It's so tired. What's the point? And it's just like, I was so happy when Kirsten Bell's like, shut up and watch the movie, and just stabbed her. Like, yes, a cheer moment right out the gate.
I think like the biggest Rambo knife too. Like that knife was huge. He had.
Yeah, well,
just hiding that under a pillow or something, that big knife. I love it. I've grown to love this sequence because I think it also kind of encapsulates what the whole movie, like the whole tone of the movie. It's very goofy, but also very brutal at the same time. And I think this whole movie kind of has that vibe to it. It has the camp of like maybe reminiscent of 2, but then it's also a little darker than all the other films, which I appreciate. So 4 tonally is the most interesting one, I think, too.
And it's commenting a little bit on what was popular at the time, which at the time was what, people call torture porn, Saw movies. They talk about that a little bit in the beginning. And Kevin Williamson said that what he wanted to bring it back to making horror movies scary, not just about like, oh, that was an inventive kill or that's really gross. He wanted it to be scary, but you can see how that change in horror has influenced Scream, because the kills, I think up until 5, this was the grisliest Scream movie we'd had. I mean, we see Olivia's intestines. Like, guys, you complain there's no nudity. Like, that's like everything. You saw everything.
Like, that is literally inside of this person.
Yes. That's as in-depth look into Olivia's body as you're ever gonna get.
Oh man. Yeah, I love that scene. That scene's amazing too. That's maybe that's easily my favorite kill from this movie, maybe the franchise too. Like,
that's a great question too. What's your guys' favorite kill? Mine would be the Olivia one too. The reveal's great. The misdirection is great.
Yes.
Just it's shocking. I loved everything about that kill.
Favorite kill from this movie?
Yes.
Oh.
Got to think about it.
Sorry. Like Olivia is such a good one, but I'm like, there's one that sticks out to me, but it's less about the kill, more of like the build up to it, or the line that Ghostface says. But I'm gonna go with Olivia because Olivia is just brutal, and the suspense build up right before it happens, like you're on the edge of your seat, like what's going on, like what, and then all of a sudden it's just. Everything about the Olivia scene was perfectly executed.
Charlie, what did you have against Olivia? Jesus Christ. Like, we know from the beginning that Jenny is the girl that Trevor had treated on Jill with. That's why Jenny's killed in the beginning, because she says on the phone, she says Trevor. So, honestly, that should be our first clue that Jill's the killer in this movie, because that's our motivation right there. We know that's why Jenny got killed. Her death wasn't nearly as grisly as Olivia's. Like, what did she do to you, Charlie? Come on.
Maybe she didn't notice him in class either. I don't know.
The other thing about the Olivia kill that I love is, if I'm not mistaken, Kirby and Jill invite Olivia over to watch Shaun of the Dead, right? And she's like, she asks if Sydney's there because she doesn't want to be around Sydney because she called her the Angel of Death. So she instead goes home, walking into where Ghostface is. The irony in that, also perfect.
honey, you're next door. All right, you're in the sphere of deathness. You're going. Honey, you were never safe.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think for me, Olivia's my favorite, followed closely by Perkins, which I think is an awesome kill, man. I just love Perkins. That that's one of those. Even when I watch it now, every time it happens, I'm like, oh, I like say it out loud, for it just gets me each time. And when I saw it the first time, I'm like, dang, dude, bro, Wes brought the brutality in this one. He did. He really did.
I love Olivia, but I got a little shout out to Rebecca's because you think it's done, and then her body gets chucked out the hospital. That's so cool.
That was the other one I was considering, because when Ghostface is like, if you want to go to the hospital, I'd be happy to put you there in the morgue.
I want to talk a little bit about how I think, and I'm sure you guys, have thoughts on it too. Scream 4 was well ahead of its time. This movie did things that there were not names for yet. For instance, at the beginning where she's talking to the guy and her friend's like, that's Channing Tatum. That's not, actually did I get you guys that clip? I did.
That's Channing Tatum. It is not. Is it? Yeah, from his Abercrombie days. You were being punked.
So she says punked because catfishing wasn't a thing yet. That's how ahead of its time Scream 4 was. I don't have a lot of clips for you guys. I think that's actually the only one, because every time I play you guys a clip, I get freaking demonetized. Anyway, I had to play that one because I think it's cool that catfishing we didn't even have a term for it. That's exactly what she's been. She's been catfished with Channing Tatum's abs. We've all been there. We've all been there.
We've all been there. We've all truly have all been there. I know. That's really fascinating to me. Like, that's just a weird thing to predict. It's almost like we're watching a Simpsons episode or something. Like, they're just spot on with how things play out later on. It's cool. Cool.
I just want to say I haven't been there. I was talking to the actual Channing Tatum. So,
well, you have that beard. Those of us who can't grow facial hair, we just get punked.
Exactly. You feel my pain.
Yep, I hear you. Another one is Robbie is constantly, and I love how he calls it webcasting. Like, oh, that's so cute. Because this was before live streaming was really a thing. And, the term wasn't even really populated yet. He was calling it webcasting, and he's filming all the time. And at the time, I thought that was crazy. But there are people who will do that, who have cams in their house all day, 24 hours a day. People who will do, live streams for an entire weekend and stuff. And Scream 4 did it well before that was even a thing. So
Dead Meat was doing the whole thing, and he said that was they actually based that on, there was a group of guys who did this for a certain amount of time straight, 24 hours a day, and that's because Robbie was based on that experiment, and those guys went on to create Twitch.
Oh.
So
what?
It's based on the guys who came up with the Twitch streaming site.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, his kill count dropped today. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it was. I thought that was super cool, and yeah, I love the idea of filming it like that. Introduces a whole new aspect. I was surprised when they were filming it. You know what? Let's wait on this topic because it involves the finale. Let's wait.
Sounds good. So those were a couple of things I thought were kind of ahead of their time. Let's talk about the rules of the remake. So that's a little sad. There's no Randy here to tell me the rules. I'm attached to Randy telling me the rules, but it's cool. Film bros can tell me. So I think my favorite rule in this one is don't fuck with the original, as said by Nev Campbell's character, me. What are the rules you guys remember that you appreciated in this movie?
I cannot.
The cops always die. I thought that was a good one they finally brought up.
I literally watched this movie before this stream, and I can't remember what they were.
There's cops always die unless you're Bruce Willis.
Right.
There is the original ending is the fake ending in a remake.
Pretty much the only way to survive is to be gay.
Yeah.
Exactly, which is a little meta because Kevin Williamson's gay. So I think he believes that not his film knowledge, it's his sexual orientation is what's going to save him in a horror movie. I don't think it's going to help you anymore. Maybe at the time this movie came out. And the killer is always right behind you. So, the rules were maybe not as memorable as the original ones, but I think they are still pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Accurate. There's a better word. We're going with accurate.
Well, I love how meta they were as well in regards to like seeing it in their environment, but then also seeing it from like outside. Like, it's kind of weird to say, but like the fake ending, the false ending was going to be the Stabathon, but the real ending was the party at Kirby's house. But in the Scream movie, the false ending was Kirby's house. The real ending was the hospital. So it was like double meta there.
I love how you brought that up because it's one of the things, and it kind of ties into the ending here, but this movie, I think it's one of the more cleverly written ones since the original one. The original one was one that really surprised me because it played with what I knew about horror movies. It played me so that I was completely surprised, and I loved it for that. And this movie, like, you're following along. Okay, there's the new Sydney. There's the new Randy. There's the new Billy. Like, there's the new Gail. They have a cast of characters that are clearly remake versions of the original cast. But what they do with these characters in the end is completely different, where you're subverted. Like, I didn't notice it right away, but that Trevor is wearing the exact same outfit that Neil Prescott is wearing at the end of Scream. And we're supposed to he's like the Billy, but no, they do the Neil Prescott thing with him. He is the red herring. He's the one that they're going to pin it on, whereas Jill ends up being the Billy. So I think it's really cool how they are like, okay, I think I know where this is all going. And it completely went in a different direction with it.
This is the best commentary of all the sequels, I think. Like, I love the remake commentary here. I think they hit everything spot on. And I feel like I don't know if I'm right in saying this, but I feel like a lot of this comes from Wes's reaction to the Nightmare on Elm Street remake from the year before. And like, it feels, doesn't it kind of feel a little bit like, man, that movie sucks so bad. Like, this is what they would probably do to Scream if they remade it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a bit of I don't want to say sassiness to this movie, but like, that's also the first word that comes to mind. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I kind of wonder, another thing that made me wonder about Wes, because I know Wes was involved in the script a lot. He originally wanted Nightmare on Elm Street 3 to have time travel in it. And I wonder if that's why Stab 5 has time travel. Like, little things like that. I'm like, okay, Wes, come on, what you doing?
I want to piggyback on what Jake said about this being a commentary. And it was also like, since 1, 2, and 3 came out like so close together, I don't think there was really enough time for like the horror landscape to change that much. So they all felt like they were kind of commenting on the same type of movies. Just obviously we know slasher, sequel, final chapter of a trilogy. This one came out far enough apart from the first 3 that the entire landscape of horror had changed. So it feels like this one, it feels new because it really was well updated to reflect what was going on in the new times of horror. And I think it did it perfectly.
I think enough time had passed too that there were changes in the genre, because Scream 1, 2, and 3 were back to back. So obviously horror hadn't changed a whole lot. And unfortunately, Scream 3 wasn't allowed to comment on what was going on with horror, which at the time it was like, we cannot have horror. And after Columbine, we cannot have kids killing kids. It wasn't really allowed to comment on that, which, I think what they did instead was great. But as far as commenting on what's going on with the changes of horror, this one did it as was the best one at doing it since the original. Like, not as good as the original, because the original is incredible, but like you said, I think it really kind of deconstructed what was happening with torture porn, with remakes, because there's so many remakes after Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 2003 came out. From there until this movie came out in 2011, it's just nonstop remakes. Kirby lists a whole bunch of them at the end of the film, and that's not even like a sampling of them. It's so massive.
On top of that too, I love that we have, like, not only do we have that aspect to it, we also have these like common things you hear people talk about horror at the time. It's almost like you have this time capsule of criticisms from 2011, if that makes sense. Like the line, I think it's is it the girl in the first cut in the opening scene where she says like, oh, they're all the same, you don't get any character development, it's just a blood and gore fest. I feel like a lot of people said that about the Saw films in like that time period. They're kind of getting sick of them by 2011. I don't personally agree with that, but I think it's a really interesting take. And it feels like something you would hear from some like a horror fan in 2011. There's a lot of little moments like that throughout this entire film that I think is really fun and kind of it's really subtle, and that's what I appreciate about it. A lot of the meta commentary in this movie is in your face, but then there's little things like that in the background that really that those hit even harder than everything else, in my opinion.
One criticism I've had on this show is just, well, why, don't you want a different perspective? Don't you want to hear the criticisms? And I'm just like, I'm a horror fan. I hear the criticisms all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know that many horror fans, but as soon as I tell anybody I have a horror channel or I like horror, they have to tell me what is wrong with horror or have to know why I like it despite all these problems with it. And it's just like, I've heard it so many times. And the fact that Scream acknowledges that, and it's like, yes, we know. And it still says, but this is why we love it anyway. I mean, these movies are true love letters to horror. It's like, yes, we've heard the complaints, but this is why we think horror is exciting. It's surprising. And there are good characters. It's just, I think a lot of mainstream audiences pick maybe a handful of the duds that they've heard about, but they are not they haven't seen as many of them as we have,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think Scream is, and this is going to be, it sounds weird in my head, but like Scream is a horror movie that's made for, I don't want to sound gatekeeping, but like true horror fans. Like if you only watch Scream and you don't watch any other horror, a little bit of Scream is going to be lost on you. And so I think Scream is a horror movie or a horror franchise that's made for people who enjoy horror as a whole. So I think that might be a complaint people have as well, because like they'll only watch Scream, but as I said, they'll miss things that Scream's commenting on and the reason for its existence.
I think that's very, very well said. And it has things in it that for horror fans, I think we'd never really seen before. Scream had that with just somebody talking about the rules, which is something I think a lot of horror fans had that conversation, something conversations I'd had with my friends at the time. And this movie has things, again, I'd never seen in a movie where it's like, what we're going to watch every Friday the 13th movie tonight. I don't care if it's all night. How they're having the stab-a-thon. Like that's something that is recognizable to fans of the genre.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it would be like, that would be like a 10-hour stab-a-thon. Like at that point, it had, because there was how many movies?
It'd have to be like 8 or 9 hours at least.
Oh, yeah, there were seven movies because they were on to Stab 7.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, they were up to Stab 7.
Yeah, so if you say an hour and a half for each one, that's at least 10 hours. So like, and they didn't start till like 10 p.m.
I know that they're pulling an all-nighter. And guys, I am seeing your comments. If you have any questions, I'm highlighting them. I'm going to get to them when we do like a Q&A at the end. If there's anything you absolutely need me to address right away, you can send in a super chat and I will happily address your question. Let's talk about the visuals and what we think about Wes Craven as a director in this movie. What are your guys' thoughts on it? I love that Wes Craven, he'd had such a varied career at this point, and I love that he is always somebody who's trying something new. He did a different look with this one because he's like, it's the remake one. It should look different. But it still had the atmosphere and the vibe of a Scream movie where it's the bright colors mixed with the gore and mixed with the horror. I love that he's always trying new things. And I think there's just incredible visuals in this movie. But what are your guys' thoughts?
I love the coloring in this movie. I think that's maybe a hot take, But I love it because it feels like a Thousands remake. You know what I mean? Like where the first three do feel like 90s movies, this one feels like the remake of those movies because of the coloring, because of how it's shot. Yeah, I don't know. Me personally, I really dig it. It works with the whole vibe of the film. And if this movie wasn't about that, yeah, it would look gross. But like that's why it works. I don't know. Personally, I really dig it. I love that he took a chance. Many chances on this film, and a lot of them land for me.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I know a lot of people talk about like there's a little bit of like a lens glare in certain odd points.
He put Vaseline on the camera to make it a little smeared.
I
blurry.
I know a lot of people like complain about that, but I thought just what Jake said. I thought it was intentional for like, because I feel like a lot of remakes try anything to set themselves apart from the original, even if it's gimmicky, right? And that was something I'm like, that's cool because it's more of a commentary on what this movie is supposed to be. So
yeah, I think I'm with you. Wes obviously intentionally had the film look that way, and you really notice it mostly in the outdoor shots. Like at the beginning when Sydney's out at the car, they're outside. That's when you really notice it more, I think, than other scenes. But anyway, he did that on purpose and had a reason for it. And it never bothered me. I know some people, like you say, some people seem to be really distracted by it, but it never distracted me at all. I'm just like, oh, okay, it's a different vibe. But I know, it never was like, oh gosh, I can't watch this or anything. So
even like the CGI knife thing, I feel like that's very emblematic of the 2000s.
Yeah, it is.
Finding a way to make something CGI, and to me, it's not distracting. It's
right.
It's part of what they're trying to do. They're trying to comment on not just horror. Scream's gone beyond just talking about horror. Horror's talking about horror at that time period. In 2011, what are we talking about? We're talking about CGI, torture porn, and this movie did that really, really well.
Yeah,
it's a completely different decade than the 90s. Things have changed.
That's right.
And I think that's why this movie was important, because horror had changed so much. Being the virgin doesn't mean you survive anymore. Things have changed a lot since the 80s and 90s. And so I think it was perfect timing for a new Scream movie. And the movie commented on the genre very well.
Yep.
Do you guys have a favorite scene in the movie?
I gotta think about that. This is gonna sound really messed up, but honestly, I think my favorite scene is having Jill's mom die, and then 5 minutes later she gets revealed. That it's Jill. I just think that's so upsetting. That to me, I hate Jill. I'm like, she is so evil.
Sociopath, for sure. It's just like, well, your mom's dead, so I need to kill my mom. It's just like, and the fact that the last thing her mom said is "Tell Jill I'm sorry."
Had no idea. It's so upsetting.
I think my favorite scene is probably post Jill thinking she killed Sydney, because we got a little bit in part 3 of seeing Roman after he thought he'd finished his mission. Not much. It was literally a few seconds, because he looks back and Sydney's gone. But with Jill, we finally get an insight into a ghost face after they think they're done. She's like, okay, I gotta get to work now because the police are gonna come, and she goes crazy on herself. And that's when, in my opinion, you see her dedication to getting what she wants. There was no hesitation for any of it on herself. And I thought it was a great kind of inside look into the mind of a ghost face after everything's done, because there's no one there watching her, so she's not performing for anyone. It's entirely mission oriented.
Yep.
Piggybacking off of what you said, that is my favorite scene, when she's just going to town on herself. It makes you think back to Billy and Stu and how skittish they are about stabbing each other. It's this girl don't give up. She is crazy. And I love it because it's our first female killer who is truly ruthless. Mrs. Loomis had Mickey do all the heavy lifting. She only killed Randy. And Jill, she does about half the kills in this movie. She is as brutal as Billy or any of the scariest ghost faces in the franchise. Like I would not. I know she's the shortest. I actually don't know compared to Amber if she is anymore, but at the time she was the shortest ghost face. I still think she's terrifying.
She's the scariest one in my opinion. Like I'm the most terrified of Jill.
Out of any ghost face?
Out of all of them, I'm the most scared of Jill for sure.
I mean, Jill is up there, but okay.
Billy,
for me, it's
like
Mickey.
Mickey, okay. I feel it. Billy and Jill are like top of my list. Like I would, if I was in a room with them, I'd be shitting my pants.
But Billy scares me a lot, though. I would be suckered into his like movie stuff. Like I just be like, kind of all right. But Jill, I'm just like, I would just be like jaw drop, like, oh bitch, you crazy. Like
I would step on Jill. He's like 5 foot even. Like I literally gonna lift my foot and step on him.
Hints of what the killer is. I like to talk about that during the streams. But one of the hints that Jill is the killer, another one that I think is she has an American Werewolf in London poster on her door, which is a great horror movie, but it's from 1981. This is a girl in 2011 who's a teenager. Like that's a deeper cut. That's not having a Saw poster on your wall. Like she likes horror. She has an Edgar Allan Poe poster on her wall. They're at her house and they're watching Shaun of the Dead. So even though she's not as talkative about it as Billy is, it's clear she does like the genre.
The plaid shirt, total sign she was a ghost face.
Yes, the whole plaid shirt theory.
Mm-hmm.
There is a theory, if you guys haven't heard of it, that if you wear plaid, it's a little hint that you're the killer. And with Jill, it's 100% true. And Charlie.
Yeah.
And Richie.
Yeah.
And Billy.
There's
a thing for plaid, guys. Watch out.
Let's see. What other hints are there? I mentioned the first one, I think, is just that Jenny was killed. That's our biggest hint that it's Jill, Let's see. Trying to think if there's anything else. Also, Jill's mom's comment, it kind of strikes. It's funny, but it does really strike you as far as the environment of the household Jill grew up in. When Kirby's like, Sydney must have so many scars, and Jill's mom's like, I've got scars. Nobody ever asked me about my scars. Jill was raised by this woman, and you realize that this family has been so overshadowed by Sydney and her family, and so if the mom feels overshadowed by Maureen, then Jill would be the equivalent of feeling overshadowed by Sydney, which kind of ties into what we end up finding out, that she's done with it, having to hear about it all the time and wanting to be the center of attention. So it's not as obvious as some of the other movies we talked about. I think the ending of this one's really surprising, but little hints were in there, little subtle hints that Jill was behind it all.
There's a lot of stuff. Like there's a lot of little hints, but I agree though. I don't think it's ever like blatantly obvious that it's her. No. It really got me at the end. Like I love the scene where it's like the text message goes out that they're dead, and like she's just sitting there like blank face, like a sociopath, not reacting at all. If you watch that scene again in the classroom,
that's another hint. She's the only one who doesn't check her phone.
She doesn't check her phone. She doesn't care, and everyone's like, "Oh my god," and then she turns around. And she's like, oh no. Then it happens, He
is truly the most evil, because like I wouldn't call Billy a sociopath. He's obviously somebody who's very wounded, emotionally by his mother. Jill, like she says, I don't want friends, I want fans. She just wants to be famous. She just wants to win at life. She has no emotions about anything.
I just want to throw this out there. I'm really surprised. I did a poll of like favorite Ghostface lines after reveal, like after they're revealed, and Jill came in second, above like Mickey and some other people. Like Jill got some love, and I thought that was great. Like she's such a good reveal.
I think honestly, probably next to Billy, Jill is my favorite killer of the Scream franchise. I love Jill. I think she's great, and I think it's what we needed in the genre. Being a girl who loves horror, and you're watching these movies. I love that we have the final girls and stuff, but with the killers, it's always a dude. It's always a dude. And in these Scream movies too, they always say him, even though we have had Mrs. Loomis. And when it is a woman, it's never as brutal as the men, you know? And I love that we have Jill in this, and she is full balls to the wall, brutal. And it shows that it doesn't matter. You don't have to be big to be scary. You know, Norman Bates is scary. He's not big. I could take him in a well, I could at least hold my own. But, you know, these days with guns and weapons and stuff, it doesn't matter your body size. So why can't a truly crazy woman be a great killer? Why is it always a big burly guy? You know? And I think Jill was the great answer to that.
Absolutely. Oh, without a doubt. And I just like, I remember after Scream 5, there was so much flack for Mikey Madison's character, like Amber. And I'm like, listen, if you have a knife versus just me right now, just hanging out, I'm going to die. Like, like I'm going to die. Like I will lose that fight 10 times out of 10. I don't know what to tell you. Like if I get stabbed, I'm done for, you know, that's how it is for most people.
I think we have this reservation too about killing
except for you.
and getting pain. And so somebody who's unafraid of pain. I mean, she's on fire and she's charging people. Obviously, the girl has an insane pain tolerance. She's a little pit bull. But you know, also having no reservations about killing someone, that puts you in a column where you are much scarier than the average person who's going to hesitate to pull that trigger or to, you know, plunge that knife in. So absolutely a woman can do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about the script a little bit. So I think it's one of the best scripts since the original one. I love the script of this one. So many funny lines. Do you guys have anything about the script that you want to talk about or any favorite lines?
One of my favorite Ghostface lines is in this movie. And it's one of my favorites because it is updated for like a newer audience and like a new horror audience. And I hear people complain about it at the time because I don't know. I guess they didn't like it. But when I honestly I'm blanking on like who they're saying it to, but Ghostface says, "I'm gonna cut your eyelids off so you don't blink when I stab you in the face."
Yep.
Okay, I thought it was Sydney, but I was like, I think that line's terrifying, and I think it perfectly exemplifies where horror was at the time. And we got to remember, I believe it was Charlie saying this, so like this would be based on the horror movies he's seen and stuff. So I think it's one of my favorite lines, one of my favorite threats of all time.
I wish we could have seen that though.
That would have been crazy.
Man. Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite lines as well. That one and the one Gory mentioned earlier, which was the don't excuse me.
Forgot the first rule about remakes. Don't fuck with the original.
Don't F with the original. That's man. That's when she said that, I was like, oh, drop the mic. You know, Sydney just dropped the mic, dude. That was awesome. But yeah, I love that Ghostface line, Eric, as well. I think it's great. And you know, again, there's so many good lines in all these Scream movies. Really smart. Whether it's Wes, Kevin, you know, Aaron, whoever's writing, it's really smart. So, but I think those are my two favorite for this movie, above the others. Yeah.
I was just thinking if there was ever a chance for Steven to say the F word, it was going to be right there during that quote, and he didn't.
No,
he got close.
No, don't F. That's it. Don't
let's not like, you know, put stress on his heart right now when he's in the hospital. Like I don't think now is not the time for him to be dropping F-bombs.
I just thought it was good for a chuckle, but I'm like, if ever there was a time, it would, like, is he going to say it as a quote? And then he didn't. So,
I was like a little kid, just like, is he gonna do it?
Yeah, like,
your parents might swear. You're like, huh?
You're like, oh, he can get away with it because he's doing a quote. He's not really saying it. He's
exactly.
That logic is sound to me.
My favorite Ghostface quote is in this one. This isn't when I think it's Sydney says this isn't a movie, and Ghostface says it will be. Like, I thought that was slick. Like, nice. I mean, I know it's written, but in my head, I was thinking, damn, good comeback. I also love the lemon square thing. Yes, horror addicts, I'm addressing it. I love you're not cheating on your wife. You eat my lemon squares, and your lemon squares taste like ass.
That's another one that's great. Yeah.
I also love, this isn't a Ghostface quote, but it's a quote from the movie when Gail's talking to Robbie and Charlie, and like she's made the proposition, and she asked Robbie, she's like, so what do you say? And he goes, I love you.
That's good.
I
I
love
like
you.
during that rant when they're saying working on less of a shriek wheel and more of a scream make. I love that.
Those are copyright.
Yes. Let's see what else. This one didn't have as many killer cameos. Usually Scream has a lot of cameos, unless you count that opening. The opening dropped a ton right there. One of the cameos I liked in this was the bust of Henry Winkler's Principal Himbry in the school. I thought that was really cool. I love it. It builds the world really well. And this movie was, again, unique because up until this point, it's changes with Scream 5, obviously, for obvious reasons. But there really wasn't a franchise that had the same director for every single movie and primary cast. The only other one that can even contend with it is the Evil Dead franchise, and definitely not another slasher franchise. So
no,
it's special because you have these people, a lot of the same production crew too, who know what they're doing. They know the lore, and when they sneak these things in, it just makes it feel more real.
That's right.
And Wes did have a cameo, as we all know, but it was in the deleted scenes.
The coroner.
I wish it would have been in there, but he did do a cameo in it, which was.
A deleted scene. I was bummed because it is a bbig criticism, and it's one I would have liked to see addressed more. They cut out a scene where they talk about how Jenny was killed with the garage door, and Dewey's like, "Oh, like my sister." I really needed him to acknowledge at some point that his sister died, to comment on it, and they cut it out. I think Scream 5 kind of fixes that with showing Tatum's ashes and stuff, and shows that he does remember his sister. But I think it's easy to forget with a lot of the sequels that was his little sister.
Yeah, in part 3. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, in 2, he seems like the same character, and he doesn't really go into, like, he doesn't have like a big change in like 2, where you would feel like maybe he does because he loses a sibling like that, So yeah, no, I agree. I think that is nice that in 5 we finally address that with the ashes.
Well, in 2, what I would say is that I think instead of like addressing it head on, like coming to terms with how sad and everything he probably is, he instead just kind of adopts Sydney as a sister role. Because like as soon as the murders happen, he literally flies, like without being told or asked or anything. He flies to like make sure she's okay. So I think that was always my understanding of him, is like his way of coping with the loss of his sister is to ensure that his like sister by proxy is never in trouble again. Because Dewey, after part 1, Dewey is only there to protect people. He literally puts himself there to protect people. But what I was going to say originally about Dewey acknowledging his sister's losses in part 3, I thought it was really crazy. Ghostface calls Stone using Dewey's voice, and Stone's like, "Oh yeah, I'm in your trailer, making sure there's no one waiting to off you like they did your little sister." And
that makes me really angry.
I was like, Ghostface, like, what did you say? I can't believe you said that. And then he pops out. I was like, that is awful. Like, he wasn't even talking to the real Dewey. I'm like, that's still just disrespectful.
Yeah, that's awful.
Another one I liked when they were obviously we know it's Jill, but when she's talking to Jenny and she's like, you're the girl with the big tits who dies, and she's like, or the dumb blonde or whatever who dies, and she's like, I've got a 4.0 GPA. Like, I like that they don't. Even though the movies are commenting on a lot of the stereotypes, the Scream movies are constantly like reinventing the genre. So I like that a lot. You can be beautiful and popular and be really smart. You can actually be all the things. You can also be a crazy psycho killer like Jill, You are not limited to a box. Let's talk about our favorite characters. Let's check in with the crew of Scream. So Sydney, I feel like Sydney, Gail, and Dewey in this movie is the only one I really didn't worry about them. Because they're not really the main cast anymore. They're officially, I think, legacy characters. Their story, at least Sydney's story anyway, has been done, has been completed. She is dragged back into this, but she's not vulnerable ever again. She has come out the other side. They cannot really drag her back into that place where she's terrified anymore. She's afraid for other people, but she's a survivor now, you know, like a mentor. And I feel like this movie really did show that while still giving her a lot of story, a lot of things to work with, you know, showing that she does have guilt for what her role in these killings have done to other people. But she's still healed. Like, you know, the healing we saw in part 3, they don't undo that to give her a new conflict. So I love that.
Yeah, and I think that also ties into why I'm just not suspecting Jill, because it seems like this should be the passing of the torch movie, but it's not. You know, not really.
Yeah.
And I think that really benefits the mystery angle while also giving our legacy characters something to do. It's a really nice little dual thing that they got going on here. And yeah, I love Sydney's role in this film, even though, like, I do agree with what you're saying. I think Sydney's story is done. I think it's been told. But here she serves as kind of like she has a much different purpose in this film opposed to the last 3 films.
It's like her final girl arc is done. She's no longer the final girl. It's like now she's like the Giles to Buffy. You know, now she's the veteran.
Yes, that's a really good analogy.
So she's evolved to becoming a different character, and you know, they call her like the angel of death because everyone dies around her. We no longer, I don't think we're any more concerned that she's gonna die. You know, she's like beaten the game, so to speak. But there are other things she's dealing with in a different way. It's not so much that we're worried about her dying and stuff, but she is still, I've said this with the other films, Sydney's constantly trying to change her genre. She accepts that she's a horror movie character. She doesn't want that to be her life. She doesn't want that to be the end of her story. She eventually wants to change her genre to just being a mom and having kids and, you know, maybe being a Meg Ryan movie. Yeah, that's what she wants. And, you know, she gets told by Rebecca in this one, accept your situation. You're a victim for life. And I think what makes Sydney such a great hero, it's not just that she survives, it's that she doesn't accept that. She doesn't accept that she's a victim for life. She believes that she can and will be happy. She will get through this. That these things that have happened to her in Woodsboro don't have to define who she is.
Yeah, I agree. It's a nice start to a new story with Sydney, because I like, if they would have just thrown her into a brand new mess, you know, and it was just all about like, oh, and more people trying to kill Sydney, more things from her past. Like, and this is sort of that, sure, but I think the focus is more on Jill is more of a main character, but not how you think. Like, they introduce it one way, third act takes it a different way. And yeah, it's fascinating. I would have loved to have seen Wes Craven's 4, 5, and 6, even though I love 5 and I'm super hyped for 6.
Me too. Their idea was that it was going to end after the thing at Kirby's house. And Sydney was going to find out that Jill was the killer, but she was going to get injured and have amnesia. And so the final thing we were going to see in the movie was that Jill's being rolled out. And they're like, we've got a survivor. She's still alive. And so you're like, oh, what's going to happen next? And then the next movie, you'd find out that, yes, Sydney is alive, but she has amnesia. And so, like, we have this returning Ghostface, which has never happened. It would have been cool.
Not yet, but once Stu comes back, we will. Anyway.
And
heck yeah.
Watching that, like, really put the nail in the coffin was the Scream series, which is just a bummer. It's just a bummer. But, yeah, I think we finally got more Scream movies, so, you know. I'm not going to cry over spilled ghost faces. It's all good.
So to piggyback on what Jake said, this movie, as we know now, it did turn out to be more people just trying to kill Sydney. But I love that that's what the movie was all along, but you had no idea until the end. Like, she got trapped there, which it should have been a signal. Like, she was literally trapped there in terms of evidence because someone dragged her in. But then you're like, okay, well, she's just trying to help these people. And it's like, no, once we know now, like, they were strategically trying to get to her in a great way. And they did such a good job of making us think that it wasn't about Sydney, when in the end, it all really was about her. So, but to go back to the original question, I think my favorite character's got to be Kirby.
Yeah, I love Kirby so much. I think she's honestly one of my favorite characters in the entire franchise. I just love her. But I was going to say something about Sydney real quick, and I can't remember what it was now. Dang it. Oh well. But yeah, let's talk about Kirby.
I thought my biggest question going into 4, because obviously after 2, really sad we didn't have Randy. They found a really clever way to fix what they even acknowledge as a mistake in killing him off. And that was the videotape. In part 4, my biggest question going in was honestly, how are we going to deal with the lack of Randy? Because he was a very important element in the movie. And I thought, like, Kirby, I know the other guys deliver the rules, like Robbie and Charlie deliver the rules, but I felt like Kirby was very much the Randy character.
Yeah, like Charlie says that he is. I don't think he is. And I feel like what I love about Kirby, because in the 90s, if you were a horror movie geek, like I was a horror movie geek in the 90s and a teenager, trust me, it wasn't cool, guys. It was not cool. It was like you're maybe a step above being a Trekkie, but not much. Like we sat at the same lunch table. So, but in the 2000s, like it's cool to like have movie knowledge and stuff, and especially horror movie knowledge because they were really big. And so I love that we have that character, but we see how that character has evolved, the archetype has evolved. And even if it didn't, I feel like Kirby would not care. Like she is self-confident in herself. She doesn't care what anyone thinks.
And it helps that she's an absolute smoke show. But anyways, going on, I love that they made, and my biggest, this kind of, I mean, it goes into a complaint I have about Mindy, but Kirby was like her own character with these great qualities. Like she was cool. She was collected. She was knowledgeable in the best ways about horror and still made it her own. And I thought she was just, and she was hilarious too, in my opinion. Like when she's talking to Trevor at the end, what are you doing in my house, Trevor? like I don't know why every time I see that, and the daggers.
Why did you, Trevor?
The dagger she stares through him after Trevor like blocks her. I don't want to say the first word, but he definitely blank blocks her. He looks through his soul in anger after that.
Well,
and
yeah,
it was so good.
Damned her, dude.
Okay, cool. Okay, I was gonna say the other one, but cool. Oh, yes, fun. For me, it's Kirby.
Something fun about Hayden Panettiere, a little fun fact, is during the filming of this movie, she actually had a burglar break into her house, and she had to she climbed up to the roof and waited for the police to come. So I think it's kind of cool that she's like a badass outside of the film too. So I'm so excited she's back for Scream 6.
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait to see her back. I do agree. She is definitely one of my favorites here. Jill's probably my number one. I really like Jill. I think she's a killer, if that makes sense. But I do really like Kirby too. I think she's awesome. I think she is a good, like, yes, I think origin Randy replacement, but I think she goes beyond that. It makes the role her own.
I dig it. Do you guys want to talk about Dewey and Gale, like checking in with them? I think it's cool that Dewey, I feel like this is the movie where he's grown up. Like he's always kind of treated as, you know, somebody who's bumbling or the Barney Fife-ish character, and he's the sheriff now. And honestly, he's more successful in his career right now than Gale. He's the sheriff, and he's really struggling with his loyalties to his job and his community and to his life. So I like what is going on with him. And then Gale, I really love Gale. Like she's grown, but you can tell she feels so overshadowed by, like, you know, Sydney's got this book out. You know, Gale was the one who wrote books, and she's trying to write a fiction book, and she's got writer's block, and she's trying to find her place in Woodsboro, and they won't even let her be a part of the investigation when, like, as she puts it, she literally wrote the book on this. You know, she's a girl, like, you know, on her turf towards her husband, making him lemon squares. Girl, you don't make lemon squares for somebody else's husband. Like, but she's still like dialed back. Like Gale in part 1 would have unleashed, but she's still trying to be like this better person that she's grown into. But you can tell she is just struggling to find her identity.
Yeah, and she still has a lot of Gale Weathers attributes. Like, I love when she just goes all out on Rebecca. Like, that's hilarious to me.
Yes.
I still got it. You know, it's great. It's awesome. It's wonderful. But I do like that you're slowly seeing the transition with Gale, especially in this movie, and then 5 even harder into that, like her just being a totally different character from where she started. It's one of my favorite character arcs across 5 movies. Gale Weathers is written so well. I think she mellows out a little more with each movie. Like, watching them all again, I'm just like, wow, like that's so well done. Easily my favorite character arc, maybe of all time across 5 movies. I just think it's so well done, and it's so subtle. It's almost like you don't even notice it, but it's there. Especially when you go back, like watch this movie, go back to 1. See how narcissistic she is in the first movie.
I feel like a big part of her growth and her change was meeting Dewey, who is just this person who's just honestly a pure-hearted person, and I think that. Otherwise, she might have been really jaded, because I get the impression that she's had to deal with a lot of jerks trying to prove herself in her career. And then she meets this guy who truly is, to his core, a good person, And I think that's changed her, and falling in love with him has changed her. And it makes me think about, like, Rebecca, like, if she had a Dewey, Like, if you guys have seen, like, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and, they talk about how she has Waymond, and who makes her realize, even though everything's meaningless, there are these things in this world that give you meaning, somebody who's like patient and kind, and that's, for Gale, it's Dewey, and Rebecca doesn't have that. So Rebecca is kind of like Gale on the road less traveled, so to speak. Like, if she never met Dewey, what she would have become.
The road traveled right off the top floor of that parking garage.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was gonna just second what Jake was saying. Yeah, Gale and Dewey, in my opinion, are the best arcs. And Gale, like, the only thing that could go further in that arc for Gale is if at some point she literally sacrifices herself to save someone else. Like, if she does that, she will have done a complete 180. Because in part 2, she talks about like quite literally being cutthroat to get where you want to get. And in the industry. So if she was to do that, I think that's the only way her growth could go any further. But I love that this is the first movie,
though, because I think the only person she'd sacrifice herself for would be Dewey, maybe Sydney, just because Dewey would. But yeah, I'd like to see that.
I don't know. I was just thinking about it the other day in terms of, like, a lot of people suspect Gale's going to die in 6. Personally, I don't, but I'm like, what if she goes out, like, saving someone? That would be a huge character growth moment, in my opinion.
I think we're going to get there. I'm curious to see what happens with her. I know originally the plan for this one was that they had discussed Gale and Dewey having a kid. And then they were like, yeah, having a baby on set would be murder. Let's not do that. But I think that would have changed her a lot. So, yeah, I think having somebody else that she needs to be protective of would probably bring that arc over. And then, as Danny mentions in the chat, they hadn't gotten a divorce yet. They had filed for divorce. They actually got divorced like a year after this movie came out. But they had tensions. Reportedly, they were very civil and polite to each other. I do like in 5, you can tell that they're back to a place where they care for each other very much so. And if you watch You Can't Kill David Arquette, she is a very big part of his life. That's still like his best friend. They have a wonderful like relationship regardless of whether or not they're married. But I feel like the tensions between them, because they're going through a divorce, worked in this film because they're kind of on different teams. And that's kind of the whole point of this is Gale's like, I'm supposed to be on your team. What's going on here? And she feels a little betrayed, and it comes through. And I think it actually kind of worked for the movie.
Yeah, and I do love that even though they had separated in real life, this is the first movie where they remain together after the end of the last movie, because everyone, like the end, they're together. The next movie, don't like each other. They're together. Like, this is the first one they were actually still together, and it's the only one where they're still together after the ending of the previous movie. Yet in real life, they had separated.
Yeah. Let's talk about some other characters. We talked about Jill, we talked about Kirby. I love a new character that's in this one is Deputy Hicks, who when I saw this movie, I thought Hicks was the killer. I was like, girl, you are so sus. And she is so like, she seems so like she's just got a chip on her shoulder about everything. One of the original things in Scream 3 was that Angelina, which I still believe she was another killer, but that it was in the script originally that she was a killer, that she'd gone to school with Sydney, that she'd kind of idolized her. And they gave a lot of that to Jill, but a little of it is given to Deputy Hicks, named after Hicks from Aliens, where she's like, we did the Peter Pan play and you were Tiger Lily. I was a lost boy. Where you can see that she's somebody who also feels kind of overshadowed. And I feel like she's got a little bit of that, energy of trying to assert herself and her place, within her job to kind of make up for it.
Yeah, and you kind of like she in a lot of I know she's a police officer, but in a lot of ways she is creating the tension between Gail and herself and Dewey, like kind of forming this weird love triangle thing or whatever. And it seemed like she could write it off as unintentional, but there's something else going on there. That's how I see it, and I totally agree. I think she does feel overshadowed. She's never felt like the it girl, I think, in her life, and she really wants to feel that. She feels like maybe she has potential for that, but that's maybe something that's now kind of unexplored with what happened to her character in the latest film. But I do think one of the most interesting scenes we get with her, though, is like what you were talking about, where she's just hanging out in the darkness for some reason in this house, which is so creepy and weird. But hey, I don't care. I love it. And then when she comes out and her eyes are like this at Sydney, I don't know, something about that scene just creeps me out, but I love it. I'm with you when I was like, I'm sold on her being the killer because this is an early placement of a creepy ass scene. Like, this is a really early place to do this. And then we kind of lose
forget about her a little bit. Like, she was perfectly set up to be the killer. The other thing too is typically, like, since the 2000s, the killer of a movie, especially a Scream movie, is going to be a named actor. Everybody knows who Marley Shelton was. She was a big deal in the 90s. She was big at the time also because she'd just done Planet Terror. So it's like, and she did that with Robert Rodriguez, who's the director of Stab. It all ties. I was like, it's Marley Shelton. She did it. I was so convinced, and it's not her.
What got me was like how different she was. Like when she was with Dewey, she was so happy. Like she was like, oh, it's not cheating on your wife if you eat my lemon squares. And when she was with Gail, like she was spiteful, is what it felt like. But then when she came out of the darkness with Sydney, it was like she was infatuated with Sydney. Like she was in love. And I was like, she's definitely like a psychopath. Like there's no way around her being that. But yeah, it turned out not to be her.
I get the impression with Deputy Hicks that she has this kind of nice girls finish last mentality. And that's why she hates Gail, because Gail is not very nice. And I don't think she thinks that she deserves Dewey. Whereas she's a woman who we now know is a single mom, struggling, who's always been overshadowed and is a good person. She's a cop. She puts her life on the line for people. And what reward is she getting for it? And I think people like Gail, who are cutthroat, bitches, as they would call themselves, rub her the wrong way. Whereas somebody like Sydney, who is a nice person who's had all these horrible things happen to her, I think she feels, inclined to want to protect that person. Even though I think she does feel a little overshadowed, it doesn't make her angry, I think, like it does with Gail.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a fair assessment.
And Nathan, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, love you all. My ranking would be Scream 4, 5, 1, 3, and last would be 2. That's an interesting ranking. I love that Scream 4 is your favorite. That's so cool. Very cool.
Scream 4 is great. I love it. I really do love the latest two installments in the franchise. I think those are my two favorite sequels. So I love it, Nathan. It's good stuff.
Very cool. And welcome to the Gory Hall. I don't know if I've seen you around, but you're here now. So thank you so much. And thank you for the super chat. Let's see. There's also, we talked about Rebecca. A lot of the characters I feel we talked about a little bit, like Deputy Perkins. I think he's great in this. I love Adrian Brody as Deputy Haas. I think they have a small part, but they're really funny. Let's see what else. The stab marathon. I love that that's in Woodsboro. It reminds me a lot of Texarkana, because you would think that sounds so bizarre. They had these killings here and they have a stabathon. They have ghost face decorations up. Like, that would never happen, but it does happen. Texarkana, in the park where the most famous kill happened, the girl from, you know, the school band, they show that movie every year. You know, Texarkana is really only famous for the town that dreaded sundown. That's it. And instead of being embarrassed by it or angry about it, you know, people who are related to the people who died still live there. That is like their big tourism thing. It's really strange.
What does Dewey say at the beginning? He's like, one generation's tragedy is the next generation's joke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you see that here, and I love that we're starting to kind of see that in the Scream 6 marketing. Not to get too far away from the topic here, it's I'm really feeling like 6 is going to be almost like a legacy sequel to 4 in a lot of ways. I feel like that's going to continue into that movie, and I love that. I think that's. I don't know. I'm fascinated by that aspect to this, because like this is horrible. Like, these are horrible murders that happened multiple different times where all these different serial killers were wearing the same mask. I've talked about on my streams. I'm like, that's like the MCU of true crime in this universe. Like, people would be like, true crime fans would be going nuts over that. I don't know. I think that's it's terrifying and awful how the media would publicize that.
Well, and I mean, it's a real life example right now. Jeffrey Dahmer, the Dahmer show came out on Netflix, and there were people who went for Halloween as Jeffrey Dahmer. And I think the problem is, and Scream 6 might even comment on this, I think they would be wise to, is, you know, the people who didn't actually live this or live during this, like this time, don't see it as real. They just see the movie.
Yeah.
And to be fair to some people in the Scream universe, starting at Stab 3, nothing is real. Like, it's all fake, like made up stories. However, if they're going by like Stab 1 and 2, that's real. But like, the people, if it didn't happen to them, it's just a movie or it's just entertainment. And like I said, real life example is Jeffrey Dahmer, and how people started like thinking he was hot and doing all the, like, saying all this weird things because of the movie they saw or the show they saw. And I think, like I said, Scream 6 could comment on that, and that would be a direct tie-in to 4 if they did that, because of what Dewey said with the one generation's tragedy, the next one's joke. So I think it'd be a good commentary.
I always say, you know, why do they keep selling that damn mask? You know, like, you're just, but I think honestly, they probably sell even more of them now in Woodsboro. Like, they've made it's this tiny little town. Like, you know, in my area, my neck of the woods, we have Forks, and I've been there. The entire town is Twilight. Like, no joke. You go into a restaurant, there's a Bella Burger. You go, there's Bella Band-Aids in one of the stores. Like, everything. There's a Twilight tour. Everything is Twilight. You know, this was a failed logging town, and now it is a Twilight town. We actually had to get a hotel room there once because there was nothing in Seattle. And they're like, well, the only room we have left is the Twilight room. My son was so upset. But it's crazy. Now, at least, you know, Twilight's not real, but I feel like that's how Woodsboro is with these Stab movies and the real killings. Like, I'm sure you can buy $100 or something. Oh, Craven. And my little brother gave me a super chat. Thank you. And it's his birthday too, guys. My little brother's birthday today. Zigma.
Happy birthday.
When will Ghostface go to space? And no, I visited him yesterday. I'm not doing this stream. I hung out with my brother, guys. All right. I'm not that terrible of a sister. Anyway, I made the guy a cake. When will Ghostface go to space? Thoughts?
In Scream X, couple years.
I want Leatherface to go to space first. As Danny says, they need to have one where the tagline is "Houston, we have a problem." I need that.
That's too good. Oh, that's way too good.
That's awful, and I love it.
Oh, I've never thought of that. That's wow. That's wonderful.
I need that now.
Well, we're getting a Netflix sequel. I didn't mean to cut you off, sorry, but I was like, hey, listen, space is a possibility. You never know.
A lot of what people like about Scream, you know, it's kind of what they talk about in the beginning. Like, there's just something real about a guy with a knife. Like, how it's kind of just reality based. You know, they've talked about things with the Stab movies, like time travel and stuff, but the idea that anyone can put on one of these, I have a costume. You guys have costumes. Anybody can do it. You know, there's a certain level of just reality to it. That's what makes it scary. So I kid about it, but I really don't want time travel or anything supernatural in the Scream franchise. But what are your guys' thoughts?
I feel like we've gone as far as we should go in the unrealistic aspects of Scream and Ghostface. There's already some aspects that are unrealistic, in my opinion, and I think that's as far as we need to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that we need to lean into the human villain a little more with the future sequels. And like whenever I talk about the future of Scream looking darker, that's what I'm looking for. Like is for more like I want to see like not Jeffrey Dahmer's a bad I got that on the brain because we were just talking about that. But like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer kind of type beat with our killers more. Like I want to see them really be these crazy idiots who are running around with a ghost face mask and robe trying to kill people. We should lean into that more, I think. I just want to see really vicious, psychopathic people don this mask now.
Well, and culturally, it's significant. When you look at other cultures, you see what they're afraid of. And in America, like that's where slashers are the most successful. And it's because the thing we're afraid of here, they say at the beginning of this movie too, it's not, creepy Japanese girls with wet hair. It's not zombies. It's not aliens. It's your next door neighbor. It's the fact that people you don't know who they are, that anybody could be killer. Even one of the people you go to work with or go to school with, like you don't know who could potentially just be crazy.
Wednesday Addams said it best. I'm dressed like a homicidal maniac. They look like all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really scary. You don't know. And it's always in these movies, it's always somebody, it's always somebody in your friend group. And that makes it's an extra level of scary. You think you can at least trust your friends, the people that but like that'd be like finding out one of our friends here on YouTube, which, it's happened in other groups, not our groups, not the horror community that I know of.
Oh boy.
It's scary.
You know what I want? Everyone, and a lot of people echo what Jake's saying with like a more violent, vicious Ghostface and stuff. I want like a smarter friend group, like a more violent friend group. Like I want to see one movie at least where there's several Ghostfaces and one of them goes to attack this friend group, and they're just the most like double black belt Brazilian jiu-jitsu gun fu people, and like they just take this Ghostface out so strategically, and then the other ghost faces have to think about it and come in at a different angle. Like my problem with a more vicious ghost face has always been these are high schoolers. Like if you have an actually trained ghost face, they're not making it out of that bodega. Like they're just not gonna. Like the ghost face is gonna have to hold themselves back from killing them too easily. So I think if we have that, like a more vicious ghost face moving forward, I think you also have to have a smarter, more cunning, and well-prepared group of victims, or else it's going to go by way too quick.
For me, that's one of the things I really appreciate about Scream, though. Michael is scary, and Jason, they're scary, but they're monsters. They're not really something that exists. And when you take off the Ghostface mask, and at the time the first movie came out, they were my age, but now to me they're children. They're children, and that's what it's really scary to think of, just teenage kids doing these horrible things. Like my son is this age now. It's really scary, and it is relevant to the world we live in. Unfortunately, these there are killings in high schools and stuff. I think that's really scary. And I think, honestly, the Scream franchise is the only one that's really tackling it.
Yeah, and I think that's why I want to see it get darker, because like I love the campiness of the past movies and it's great. I want to move. I kind of want to move past that now and start getting even more into the realism hole a little bit, which is a really gross way to say that, but I think that would be
fun. The gory hole.
Wow.
Like a couple blocks over, but.
Down the street. Got to take a drive. Yeah. But yeah, it's there.
I get their mail sometimes. So let's talk about the ending. So I know you guys want to talk about the ending. I told you guys I suspected Judy Hicks. I feel like I should have guessed Jill. Like when you look back and there's all these hints. But do you guys remember who you guys suspected when you first saw this film?
Definitely, like Judy and Charlie were my suspects. Charlie was still a good reveal though, in my opinion, because the last minute make you think it's not him with they do the whole Casey Becker, Steve Orth thing at the end. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, hang on, no, it's not him. What's going on? And then you get the reveal. I thought that was great. I thought that was really awesome. So I was pretty set on those two until that scene.
After part 3, I was more open to the idea of a single killer, and I was like, Judy, it's Judy.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking it might be a single killer again too. I wasn't, because I couldn't think of who'd be working with Judy, but I was pretty sure it was Judy.
Yeah, same here. I was going for Judy all the way on that one. I said, oh, it's gonna be her, and yeah, that was. Man, I thought it was gonna be Judy in 5. I mean, I was still on the Judy train. I seriously, if you
there's a Judy train too. Does it pull out of the same station as the Stu train?
No, because the Stu train is continually being prepped. That Judy train was ready to go, and I let it out. I let it out too early, and so I said, "Oh." And my final,
you like the conductor and Thomas the Tank Engine, like managing all these trains.
Oh yeah, I got a little train here, one over here. Like Stu train is in prep mode. It still is now, prepping for 7, Scream 7. But for Judy, I was like, yeah, man. My final prediction for Scream 5, Judy was the mastermind. Liv and Amber were the killers. That was my final prediction for 5. But anyway, back to 4. Yeah, I said Judy all the way, and dang it. Actually, I'm glad I was wrong. I love to be wrong on a Scream movie because that means you're surprised, you know. And when and talking about the reveal, you know, that Judy reveal or Jill reveal rather was like my favorite. It might be after Stu and Billy. It might be my favorite because it was a total shocker.
She says the surprise Sydney thing, the Stu quote.
Was that?
She says surprise Sydney, just like how Stu says when he's revealed.
Yes. She's great. She's an awesome reveal. And
I love her as a villain. She's great.
I love her. Yeah, she's my favorite ghost face after Billy and Stu is our Stu and Billy is Jill. So yeah, this movie, you know, the ending, the whole way it was done it holds a special place for me. And again, I mean, when I want to watch a brutal Scream movie outside of the first one, this is my go-to. Yeah, Jill, the reveal was amazing.
So you guys were all surprised by the reveal of Jill and Charlie.
Yeah, Jill especially was.
Jill.
It was upsetting. You know, it was upsetting. It was so surprising. I was like, no, what? That hurt, man. That broke my heart.
By Charlie, when Kirby finally goes out there and then he stabs her. Like Charlie was nowhere near my radar of being a killer. I was just like, oh no! Especially when he's all tied up and stuff. Like, oh my gosh, that got me.
Him and Robbie were a little suspicious to me for a bit, but it was a little too obvious. You know, they've been hanging out the whole movie. I'm like, I don't know. You know, I'm like, I don't know now because I think they're making that little too translated. But I really like what they did with the killers of this movie, like a lot. I don't know. Ugh.
And they changed up a lot of stuff too. Like this movie did such a good job of paying tribute to that original film and still doing so many things that we'd never seen before. First movie where neither of the killers gets shot in the head. It's kind of been a Scream thing up until this point. Also, their motivation has nothing to do with Maureen Prescott. First movie where that's the case. This is about Sydney. When you think about it, the other 3 movies were more about Maureen than they were about Sydney. Sydney's kind of caught in the crossfire of it because she's her daughter, but it's a lot more to do with Maureen and Sydney trying to understand what happened with Maureen so that you can figure out who the killers are, because that's ties into the motivation. This one's just about Sydney, like just Sydney being Sydney.
And it's refreshing because like the last 3 movies have been about that. You know what I mean? And like I love those movies. They're great, but it's like, oh my God, something different. You know, a totally different motivation out of nowhere. And it's great. It's such a, and it all hits you right after the Jill reveal. It's nice. It's just it's definitely my favorite third act of all the sequels, I think. I don't know. Everything that this movie does in its last like 20-25 minutes or so, I can't get enough of it.
Like it allowed that trilogy to be closed, which is good because I think the way it ended was so good. And now they're back as like legacy characters, as like, you know, mentor characters. They're not really the ones who are in danger in the same way as like the kids are, you know, but they're involved. And the fact that, you know, Sydney ties directly into the motivation for it, I think was really interesting. Though it does make you understand why, like after that switch, she's like, yeah, I just am all out. Like I don't know anymore. Like being Sydney Prescott, you just gotta I don't know how she does it, but I think that's why she is a true hero. It's not just that she's a survivor, which is wonderful. I mean, we don't have too many that survive their entire franchise like she does. I love that she's alive, but you know, Sally Hardesty survived Texas Chainsaw Massacre up until the newest one. But did she really? I mean, she's balls crazy. She's still in an institution in Next Generation. Whereas Sydney, it's not only that she's alive, it's that she's found a way to live her life. You know, she's found a way out. Like, you know, this one, Out of Darkness. You know, she's found a way to be Sydney outside of the Woodsboro killings, to have a husband and children. And I think that's really cool. And I think it's so inspiring for anybody who's ever had to go through something really big in their life. You know, it doesn't have to be like killings. It could be anything. Just knowing that you can come out the other side of it.
Oh yeah.
The only thing this third act was missing is someone going, Sydney's cousin. It would have been perfect. It would have been.
I need you to do that. I need to edit you into the movie. Like
I just wanted to do that to see Jake's reaction because I know he's gonna hate it.
I know. That's why he wasn't on the part 2 one, because we were talking about what we love about part 2. You know, I choose people specifically for these streams. I know what I'm doing.
You got schmucks.
Yeah, that's also why we don't do certain franchises, because there's some where I just can't be that big of a person and say that I love every single one. But Scream, it's an easy one. Let's talk about the legacy of Scream 4. So guys, we're wrapping it up. If you have any questions, we're getting to that Q&A part at the end of the show. So throw your questions in here and we're going to address them in just a little bit. Do you guys think Scream 4 is scary?
That's a really tough question. I think that there's a good argument for both sides, but I think that this has some real, like me personally, I think that this movie has some incredibly scary moments that are great and shocking because of the franchise that we're dealing with here. Like, I don't know, me personally, I don't think I've ever been like terrified by a Scream movie. They're more like fun, campy horror films, and I love them. Like, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if they're like directly like, oh my God, I lose sleep over Ghostface. This is the first movie where I'm genuinely terrified of the person wearing the Ghostface mask. You know what I mean? I feel that in the Olivia scene. I feel that in the Perkins death. I feel that at the ending. And I don't feel that all the time because, like I said, I think there's a lot of humor in this movie where it's so in your face, where it takes away from that a bit. But when those little moments are so good in this movie. They really are scary and effective. It's not something that's consistent though, and I think that's a big part in something being continuously scary, like something like Evil Dead. Sorry, this is long-winded as all hell, but Evil Dead.
It's fine. We love rants here.
I'm almost done. I swear I'm almost done. You have in Evil Dead, for instance, like it gets really scary about like 20 minutes into it with all the like the jack of clubs or whatever the fuck she says. It's awesome. It's great. But then everyone dies except Ash in like the next 30 minutes or so, and he's left alone. It gets progressively scarier because there's just no breathing room. There's a lot of breathing room in Scream 4. And that's not a bad thing. Once again, I don't think that this... I do think that, like you were talking about earlier, Kevin Williamson, a big goal with this movie was to make it scarier, but he didn't want to lose that Scream DNA of, like, you got to have the commentary in there. There's a lot of ideas going through this movie, and I think they're all effective for where they're at. Is there anything that's like, oh my God, I pooped my pants after watching this? No. but it has some good moments. It has some moments that definitely stand out opposed to the past 3 films, where there's some like genuinely, oh my God, like, whoa, that shocked me because I wasn't expecting it from this specific movie. And it plays into its advantage for that reason, I think. It's not like Evil Dead, you know, it's not like an Evil Dead where it's just a crescendo until the end, but it does have these little like, whoa, little big moments like that. I don't know. That's a really long-winded way to say that it has 3 insanely scary moments.
A big
but
Evil Dead fan?
Huge Evil Dead fan. I'm so excited for Evil Dead Rise.
That's the next what we love about the franchise that I'm serious I'm doing after this one. So we're gonna have to have you back.
I could be on any of those. Just so you know.
I have to be. We're talking after this.
I was about to say I would also love to be there. I love all of them.
I'm excited.
I did poop myself after this, but it's unrelated. Unrelated to the movie. I'm kidding. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that joke out there.
Cinema workers.
Yeah, poor dry cleaners, more like it. But anyway,
honestly, now that you mentioned it, I almost pooped myself at Cocaine Bear. I really had to poop, and I knew there was going to be a stinger. I'm just like dying, and then I like literally ran to the bathroom.
Oh wow!
Oh man!
Scared me or made me laugh really hard. We would have been done.
Would have lost the war. I think this movie had scary moments. It is the second scariest in the franchise for me. For me, third and number 3 is always going to be the scariest. And we talked about that last Sunday. So
Awesome points about that.
Yeah, so yeah, it had some truly terrifying moments, and the Olivia kill for me, after seeing that, I'm like, okay, they're not playing around at all. Like, they're literally here to just do destruction, and we just got to be okay with that. And yeah, that scared me. So it was scary for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, buddy.
I agree. I think. Sorry.
I just want to wrap you up in hugs and kittens.
No, I've been trying to catch some of these coughs, but I missed some, so I apologize.
Oh, you're fine. I'm honestly just happy that you're here, guys. He is in the hospital, so keep those Care Bear stares coming.
No, I'm glad to be here. I really am. I'm glad I was a little concerned but the funny thing is, I woke up just in time to be here, and I'm like, oh, that's great. This is perfect. Because when I woke up earlier, I was like, oh no, I missed it. And it felt late, but it wasn't. It worked out. So, but anyway, but back to this. Yeah, I think it was, and like I said earlier, like when I watched this, because remember this is coming off of 3, where Wes had to tone it down. You know, he was forced to tone it down, but when this movie started and when we got to that Olivia kill, I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, Craven is back. He is back, guys. Brutal. His brutality's back. I never will forget seeing that knife go through her hand. And I was like, oh, dude, this is like Wes has just turned it up to 11. If you're a Spinal Tap fan, 11. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great brutality. And yeah, so I think it was, and I think that Wes just showed once again that, and I know it's sad that it was his last movie. Of course, I would have said that for any movie. It was his last one, but in my mind, he went out swinging on this one because he didn't hold back on.
I think he would have come around to appreciating this one more later
I
on.
do
I know a lot of
too.
stuff got changed, but he did a good job.
He did a great job. I mean, the fact that we're here talking about this, celebrating this movie as at least for a couple of us, and me included in this, is our favorite sequel. I mean, that says a lot. So I applaud what Wes did, and it's incredible that I've said this before about him. When you think about the trilogy, the sequels, the 3 sequels, he did an amazing job with such interference in his way, and he still brought out some amazing movies. And excuse me, it's a testament to Wes how these movies are still so amazing after all this time, and how they're still so enjoyable. And I always say this: the rewatchability of these movies is incredible, whether it's 2, 3, or 4.
I have to, when I watch these, I can't just watch Scream 1. I'm like, oh, no, I gotta watch the rest of them now.
You do, yeah. It's like you just have to keep going. And I mean, I watch them all the time. And
I know you do. I've watched them with you multiple times.
That's right.
We haven't even been friends that long.
I know. In fact, we're watching Scream 4
We are
this Wednesday night. So, it's coming up. So anyway, I think it is scary. I think it's brutal, and I think it's a really great film that I'll continue to love forever. Yeah.
I think for me, this movie scared me more than the other ones because, I, especially as a teenager, I was cocky. I'd seen a lot of horror movies. So I was like, oh, I'd survive that, which in reality, I probably wouldn't. But I was a cocky kid. So, but this one, it was different. I was an adult and a mom when I saw this. And I'm watching it. I'm thinking, like Danny said in the chat, the MCR quote, teenagers scare the living shit out of me. I'm like, it really scared me. Like, I was thinking about my son's friends, the people my son goes to school with, the motivation in this, like what people will do for attention back in the 90s, it's getting that trial like Mickey wanted, or, becoming a famous serial killer. They don't really give killers that kind of attention anymore, but people can get their own attention through live streaming, through YouTube and stuff. And people have shown that they will do insane things to get attention through social media. That really scares me, as I think one of the times I think a lot of people feel overshadowed and overlooked is when they are in high school, and just knowing that, my son is in there, that scares me a lot, and you get constant reminders about why it's scary, and it's not going away. So it freaks me out a lot. Just the motivations behind it, the fact that they're so young, you want to believe that people that age are innocent, but it's just not always the case. So I think that is really scary. And just, I feel like the characters in this movie really do seem scared. I do know that they had a lot of people dressed up as ghosters. You guys watch the gag reel. It's really funny. Just like jumping out at people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that helped make them extra on edge because they really do seem extra jumpy. And I feel like that kind of played into it a bit. But I think this movie is great. And just the performances, I think, really sell it too. Like Kirby's face when she's trying to save Charlie, like just how she just looks so heartbroken. And like for me, those are the characters in this movie that I'm really afraid for, because Sydney's kind of like the Murtaugh of this movie. Like she's getting tooled for this shit. Like it's not phasing her as much. But when you see how the characters that it is hurting, who are vulnerable, who are the characters that we're worried for,
Yeah.
It's like James Franco in Ballad of Buster Scruggs, when he looks over, he's like, "Oh, your first time?"
Yeah, I love how I've grown up with this franchise because I was their age when Scream came out. I've seen every single one of these movies in the cinema. And so like I'm watching it differently. And now I was watching Scream 4 as like a Sydney. Like I'm worried for the kids, And I don't want Kirby to die. And I think Charlie seems like a nice kid. And how wrong was I? So I think this movie absolutely did what it wanted to accomplish with me. We've talked about how you guys rank Scream 4 with the rest of the franchise. So it's your guys' favorite sequel for all of you?
No, not me.
Which one's your favorite sequel?
My favorite sequel is 2.
I would go 2 as well. 2 and 4 are really close for me, but I usually get that slight edge to 2. Don't hate me, Jake. 1, 2, 4, 3, and 5. What about you guys?
I'd probably go 1, 5, 4, 2, 3.
I'm 1, 4, 2, 3, 5.
Awesome.
I'm 1, 2, 4, 3, 5.
Yeah, I think I got 5 at the bottom.
It's
That's
gonna be
pretty
like
shocking.
phone numbers by the time we get a couple more Scream movies.
Here's the thing, just as a like a disclaimer, I love all the movies. Like I truly do. Like I hate ranking them because everyone like you'll hear it like exactly what Jake just said. Like you've got 5 at the bottom. It's like yeah, but I still love it. Like it's not bad at all. I just kind of love this one more.
It's not like ranking the Hellraiser movies, okay, guys? Like
the
bottom one doesn't mean I don't like it. Like honestly, like no, they're all terrific. They're all movies where like I will go out if they've released a special edition tomorrow with extra things or features that I didn't already have on the ones I would buy it tomorrow, no matter which one of the Scream movies it is. Like I love Scream that much. You know, they released one of these on 4K that's not already out. I'm gonna go buy it again. You know how many times I bought these movies? I bought the first one on VHS, guys.
Me too.
I bought a popcorn bucket. That's how much I love them.
I ordered mine from Cinemark.
I ordered mine on Cinemark too. Yep, I sure did.
So last final thought on Scream 4. Like in a nutshell, why do you think this movie is great, or why do you love it? I'm big on the nuts today.
What's up?
I'm big on the nuts today. The nutshells.
Oh hell yeah!
I'm gonna put nuts in my Scream 4 popcorn holder when I get it. Scream 4. It's just a Scream 1. I don't know why I said Scream 4. Ignore me. Go ahead.
Well, hang on. What kind of nuts? I need to know. I'm a big nut guy. You see.
Oh, that's a tough one because I'm a big nut guy too. Probably I don't know, maybe a walnut.
Okay. Oh,
I can get down with a walnut.
Fuck yeah!
I go pistachios most of the time.
Oh, pistachios! Oh, pistachios!
Pistachios are so good.
Cashews, man.
Cashews are great.
Some honey roasted cashews. I love honey roasted cashews.
Where is this stream going?
Almonds are my favorite. But anyway,
good.
Popcorn holders. We'll put nuts in them, and we'll have a watch party or something. Guys.
Yes!
Oh, there we go.
So, in a nutshell, why do you love Scream 4, or why do you think it's a great movie?
This one just stands out above the other sequels because I feel like 2 and 3 are just like I really love those movies, but I think just concept wise they're in the shadow of the first movie. This is the first movie that stands out in the whole franchise for me. Then it makes a statement of it too. Like that. So this one it's darker. Its tone is just completely different from the last 3 films. I mean. I don't know. This one, if someone was like, what is the Scream franchise all about? I only have time for 2 movies. I would say 1 and 4. Like watch those 2 movies. You'll get what the gist of the whole franchise just from those 2 movies. So yeah, I also feel like that this is the most important Scream sequel as of right now. That could change in 2 weeks here. But I think for right now, this is the most important one because this is a big pivotal point, I think, in where the tone has gone. And now 5 got a little darker, and I think 6 is going to go even further into that direction.
Oh, I can't wait.
I know. Oh, so close.
It is very close. So for me, 10 days, 17 hours, and 11 minutes until Scream 6. Sorry.
Wow.
Way to rub it in.
Oh yeah. I've got an app that like literally tracks it on my phone until my showing.
That's cool.
Anyways, for me, the reason why I love it, first and foremost, it's the first one I got to see in theaters, which is just amazing to me. Secondly, my big thing is how well it was executed in updating the franchise to modern horror while retaining the DNA of what Scream was. I thought they did it perfectly, and that's always made me love it.
Yeah, I don't have many other reasons to add. I think you guys kind of surmised my feelings regarding Scream 4, why it's my favorite sequel. I think it's just, again, it's a return to the past, but in a new way. It's like a new, fresh take on the past. And Jake, you said it right. I think if someone asked me, I got 2 movies, which one should I watch? It's 1 and 4, because it really it shows where it started and it shows where it was going. In the new.
It's like that meme, how it started, how it's going.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's accurate, So So I would say that everything you guys said, and just re-echo that four is good. And if you haven't seen four in a while, if you're watching this, I would encourage you to rewatch it, put it in and watch it again, because every time you see the movie, to me it shines more and more, and you pick up things, and at least for me, I appreciate it even more every time I see it. So, and I will tell you this: if that movie came out last year or this year, it would feel like it fits in the current age we're in right now. It just like it doesn't feel dated at all. And talking about Jill's motive, Gory, you mentioned it earlier. It's 100% dead on. I mean, my gosh, it's more relevant today than it was then. It was like before its time. It's like the
This
whole.
movie was so ahead of its time in
It
so many
was.
ways.
It really was. I mean, when she's like, "I don't need friends, I need fans." What do you expect me to do? Work?
Yeah,
I'm like, wow. I'm
that
like,
whole like influencer thing. Like,
yes,
I'm
the
gonna find a
influencer.
cheap way, an easy way to not having to like do a 9 to 5.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, of course, and, what Jill didn't realize at 17 is that it's not easy to do that either. It's really hard.
It's still work.
It's really, it's
Oh, honey.
a ton of work. Sorry, guys. It's a ton of work.
Yeah, this is what being an influencer has done to Craven, guys. Like the man needs to rest.
Just put me in a hospital. So there you go. There you go. But no,
Oh.
seriously though, she would have learned that if she'd lived a little longer. But end of the day, this was a great movie. It's still relevant. It's still applicable today, and it's just it's a great movie. So go watch it, people. Please go watch it again.
All right, I promised you guys a Q&A. So here's the questions I grabbed. Gamer Freak wants to know, how do you feel when Robbie says, I'm gay only to survive? You know what I mean? Being gay is the only way to survive if you no. Okay, you guys can read it. I'm messing it up.
Are they referring to the rule? Or are they referring to? I think I'm pretty sure we know what I know what he's talking about, because we had this discussion on the live stream, but on mine before we got here. It's when right before Robbie gets stabbed, he's like, "Oh, I'm gay." Do you think he's actually gay, or do you think he's just saying that to try to live?
Yeah,
try to survive.
Oh, wait. Gory. Okay, wait. Go on about that. I'm curious to hear about that.
I think he is gay. He's like, if it helps. I do think he's gay. I think he's way like kind of obsessed with Charlie. I also feel like it's a commentary on part one, because a lot of people believe there's a Stu Billy thing there, which I don't really think that there is. But I feel like Williamson's kind of making it up with Robbie, who is kind of into Charlie. But he really cares about him. Like, he's rooting for him to get Kirby, but I do feel like he's into Charlie.
Ooh, that is a very interesting take, because I always took that as like he just knows the rules of modern horror, and he's like, well, if I tell people I'm gay, I can't die, I'm safe. That's what he thinks. That's a really I'm gonna watch I gotta watch it again now with that in mind, because I've never taken that away from his character. That's really interesting.
Constantly comments on what's going on with Charlie's relationship, like the nerd's finally going to get him. He constantly, like because he's really in tune with what's going on with Charlie, because he likes Charlie.
Great point. Like wow. See, that's why I love this franchise.
Like 4 or 5 times in the movie, which just means like you're way too focused on this kid because you like him, like you would with a crush. I've done that before. I was the girl who had like the only girl in a group of guy friends, and like you would do that just kind of like because they're your friends. You're like, yay, I'm so glad that you like so and so. That's so happy for you. I hope it works out. Because you're trying to be a good friend, but you like them. And so that's kind of how I feel.
I've never felt that way. I rewatched it earlier today, and I never got that he's gay at all. I thought I 100% thought like I'm gay. I think he does say if it helps, right? Like I'm gay if it helps. Like,
well, he says I'm gay if it helps. Like kind of like a last afterthought. Like, well, maybe that's not going to help me, but
yeah.
I always thought it was like
says the rule, or no, Charlie says the rule, but I feel like they've talked about this before, like how friends talk about, like, you know, oh, I would survive a horror movie because of this, and the other. Yeah, I feel like he's put some thought into this.
I see. For me, he was just like, wait, I'm gay. Like, he said it so fast. Like, for me, I always felt like it was a person about to die saying the only thing they could think of to try to save their skin. Like, I've never got those vibes from him. Maybe my gaydar is broken, but you know.
I also feel like, you know, because Kevin Williamson's gay. Like, I feel like I don't know. I feel like he would have wanted to have a gay character in there.
Well, he said openly that Stu liked Billy more than just friends.
Yeah, I kind of got that.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think Billy likes him, but I think Stu might like Billy.
Oh yeah, and I don't think Billy reciprocated in any way. I think Billy might have known and used that to his advantage to get Stu to help him. But Kevin Williamson has said that before, so I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they are. I don't know. I've just never got it I got it more from Stu than I did from Robbie.
I was always in the middle on Robbie because my initial feeling was he was gay. That was my first thought as well, as like what Gory said. And I know a lot of people were like, "No, are you sure? I don't know about that." I was like, "Well," I started rethinking it again. But my first thought was that he was, and so I probably lean towards he was, and because you know what's interesting about it though, I will say this, if I remember right, because I haven't seen 4 and it's been at least 2 or 3 weeks, but the last time I remember seeing it, if I remember right, when he says that to Ghostface turns their head. They have a little head
like
tilt.
they didn't know. I don't think Robbie's out yet. I think that's why he says it. It's not because he's making it up. I think he thinks that the Ghostface doesn't know that he's gay.
Right. That's what I'm thinking
a lot
too.
Like Randy in the first one, he's like, I've never been so happy to be a virgin, because Randy knows the virgin lips. So I think Randy would have done the same thing, but I'm a virgin. You know, like, you can't kill me. So I feel like that's what he's doing. Like, he's not out yet. And so he's kind of outing himself, like, you can't kill me, I'm gay.
Right. That's why I think that head tilt is interesting. Because like the person doesn't know it. Like, oh, they're surprised that so it was a secret. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, who knows at the end of the day at this point if we'll ever know, but I lean towards him being in the closet and probably not coming out yet. That's my thought. But I'm not 100% sold on it either, but that's where I'm leaning towards. Yeah.
So I'm the lone one who thinks he was just trying to save his skin.
No, I think Jake's with you.
It's a good way to read the film too. I don't think there's like a definitive answer, but I think it is fun to speculate about. And it was a good question, Gamer Freak. This question, not much to say about this one. How many DVDs do I own? I also own a ton of betas and VHSs. I think the appropriate term to quantify it would be a buttload. I own a buttload of movies. Ariel's birthday is on Friday. Everyone give Ariel a big happy birthday. Hey. And Mr. Flickster wants to know, who do you think stabbed Gale at Stabathon? I think it's Charlie because he was there.
Yeah,
probably so. Yeah,
it would have been very easy for him to go up there and stab her.
Yep.
Plus, he was the one. I got the impression he was more techie, setting up the cameras and stuff, so he would have seen her on the camera.
That's right. I agree.
What do you guys think?
Well, it could have been Jill though, right? Because Jill had had talked to Kirby, and Kirby had already taken her. And then Jill, I mean, obviously, Charlie could have told Jill about stabbing Gale in the shoulder. But yeah, now that I think of it, sorry, I was thinking about the question. I'm like, although it could have been Jill because she was there and she knew specifically about Gale's shoulder.
Was she there though? I didn't see her in the Stabathon scene.
She was on her way. Because I know Sydney comes in and finds the messages right on her laptop before she snuck out. So she was supposed to go. We don't see her there, but I thought it might have been because she was there as Ghostface, because Charlie was with Robbie, like, announcing everything. Right?
It was after that.
I still think it's you. You're right, but I still think it's Jill because I feel like she would have had to have more time, if that makes sense. Like, Charlie's hosting this party. You know what I mean? I don't
think they were prepared for Gail to be there. I think it was kind of like he saw her on the camera. He's already there. He ran over there and stabbed her, but he doesn't have time to kill her. He has to get back to what he's doing.
That's a good point.
And Dewey shows up and like shoots at Ghostface. That's why. But I thought. Sorry, I completely lost my train of thought there. Wow. You're gonna have to come back to me. I was like, wait a second. I was like, what about this? What about this? Oh my God, it's gone. It's completely gone. Wow.
Maybe it was Stu. I mean, he's still alive.
It was him. So. Obviously, it was Stu.
It's Angelina who did it. That's who did it.
Oh, wait, there we go. Yeah.
Well, they're both still out there, lurking in the shadows somewhere. So hey.
And I'm gonna ask you guys, what you're working on, where they can find you. By the way, my awesome guests today, their links are in the description below. So please check them out if you haven't already. They're awesome channels. I'm a big fan of all three of these guys. These guys know their horror movies, like not just Scream. They just know all the horror movies. And I'm also loving this little John Hammond ghost face you have behind you. Is it supposed to be John Hammond? Because it looks like John Hammond.
Are you talking to me? Like, which one? Wait. Oh, that one.
Hammond
yeah.
From Jurassic Park.
Yeah. I'm gonna say that's way cooler than what I have. What the reason I have it there with the hat?
Or
so
is it
I'm gonna say yes.
Hannibal at the end of Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
That's good too. But one thing I wanted to do before we leave here is you made a Scream movie called Red Right Hand. It's awesome. It's actually nominated for an Oscar.
Get it up.
Horror Awards for Best Fan Film.
Well, thank you.
Would you tell everyone about Red Right Hand and where they can find it?
Yeah, check out Red Right Hand on my page. Just look up KillJoy Jake. Check out the full length movie. Don't watch the proof of concept; it's terrible. Watch the movie. I'm really proud of it. We had a blast making it. It's a Scream fan film from the killer's perspective this time around, but. You might have the question, well, what is there like? So there's no mystery, Jake? That's boring. You just took one of the craziest elements of Scream. Oh no, there's still a mystery, my friends. The killers have to solve a mystery this time around. Little kind of flipping the whole thing on its head. So check it out. I think it's really fun. It's really silly, really goofy. Yeah, go check it out. I don't know, it's a good time.
It's a great movie, guys. You gotta go watch it.
It is really good, guys. It's a lot of fun.
And vote for it too.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
Gory?
all the descriptions. When
it comes
we send out the ballots to specific like horror fans.
No, that's right. You're right.
But do check out the Oscars. It's the same night as the Oscars. It's super easy to remember. Why would you want to watch the Oscars where they're just going to snub horror and get it all wrong? On our show, you guys pick the awards and they're all horror, so it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm rooting for you. I voted for it.
Well,
I remembered what I was going to say. I remembered what I was going to say.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so they did know Gail was going to be there because they told her about it. I think that was entirely a plan.
Oh, that's right. They did.
Robbie and Charlie told her about it.
Sneaking around up there with camera, like planting cameras.
I don't know. And that's why I didn't think it was Robbie. I thought it was Jill who saw Gail go in. Yeah. I don't know. It could be either one, but I'm going to have to watch it and completely analyze that scene again.
Yeah, I think I need to rewatch it too. And off the top of my head, I'm saying Robbie, but I need to rewatch it.
You know what? I think Wednesday, maybe at like 10:15.
There you go.
Wednesday at 10:15 p.m. Eastern is probably going to be a good time to watch it, right?
Yeah. So that's a great segue into my next question is what you guys are working on over on your channels. So Craven, we're going to be doing the Scream 4 watch party on Wednesday over on Craven Something Scary.
Yes.
I mean, he did the last one from his hospital bed, which, dude, rest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I know I probably should be asleep right now, but you know what? Sometimes you just gotta you gotta do what you gotta do for my friends, the community, and Scream and Wes Craven. So I'm here, and we're doing it. And Wednesday I'm going to be doing it too, with Gory, and like Eric's going to be there. So come check us out. We're going to be over on my channel, 9:15 Central, 10:15 Eastern, for Scream 4 watch party. We're gonna just hang out and watch the movie. We're just gonna chill. Now you've heard all the facts, you know all the information now, so just come and relax Wednesday night, kick back with us, and we're just gonna watch it together live. So hope you'll all come.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
I'll hang out in the audience.
Marcus makes a good point. They told Gail about the Stabathon, but they didn't tell her where it was. They said it was very exclusive, and they wouldn't tell her where it was located.
Yeah, that's true. I think it was entirely a plant, though. Like,
possibly. I mean, they know Gail Weathers would investigate it.
Yeah.
exactly. I think if they truly didn't want her there, they wouldn't have told her about it at all.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a good point. Good point. We need to pay attention because that's not something I was specifically looking for when I watched it. So, yeah, Eric, we're on a mission Wednesday with Craven.
let's do it.
And what do you guys are? We got Craven Something Scary on Wednesday. Gotta check out Red Right Hand. What else are you guys doing over on your channels?
Eric, anything you doing, man?
I'm still running through the Scream in 60 seconds or less. Still working on part 3. I'm going to do I've never done a Ghostface ranking video for my own channel, so I'm going to do one of those before 6, and I'm going to do my own little how to identify who Ghostface is in a Scream movie. I thought of some clever things that I've noticed rewatching the movie.
I would say the Plaid thing is one that people say. For me, when they cast a big name actor in a small part.
Yeah.
For me, if you are attached,
excuse me.
Yeah, so Samara Weaving is the open. I'm still convinced opening kill, but like if you're attacked off screen, you're a Ghostface. Like,
yeah,
if you're attacked off screen and you like no one sees it, but they find you there, you're Ghostface. Like stuff like that. There's a few other little rules that I've found that I'm like, okay, look out for these because they're very clear signals, along with examples.
Unless you're Derek.
I love it.
Scream 2, who was attacked in the house off screen.
Jake, how do you sleep amongst all those ghost faces?
Yeah, my bed's right here. Like I'm not. I sleep with all of this watching over me at night. It's terrifying.
As a girl who sleeps beneath an Evil Dead 2 poster, so you know.
Yeah, I mean,
no.
you get used to it. Ethan Hawke from the Black Phone watches over me while I sleep. You can't see it, but I have that like literally right over my bed, so it's terrifying.
He did have a habit of sleeping over people in that movie. Like, couldn't get past him.
Jake, was there anything else you're working on over on your channel that you want people to check out?
Yeah, I'm covering Scream 6 right now. Check out the live streams; those are always really fun. We're just right now we're big focus on Scream, but as the year progresses, a lot of other stuff I'm excited for: Evil Dead Rise, The Exorcist, Saw X. A lot of good stuff coming out this year.
You guys think I'm excited for Scream 6? You don't even like Evil Dead Rise. I'm there might actually be pee. Like I'm gonna have to wear like some kind of adult underwear.
Me too. I'm gonna lose my mind. Oh my
God. When I saw Cocaine Bear this past Thursday, they showed a red band Evil Dead Rise trailer, and the person sitting next to me, when they got to the scalp scene, literally goes, "Oh my God!" The funniest thing ever. I loved it.
Nice.
I love that.
Oh, that's awesome.
What I'm working on, you guys can see me again tomorrow over on Horror Addicts. Every Monday night on Horror Addicts, Danny and I review new release movies. So tomorrow we're talking about Cocaine Bear, and we'd like to make a theme of it. So we're also going to do Snow Falls. It's going to be fun. And Wednesday I'll be over on Craven Something Scary watching Scream 4. And please join me next Sunday, same gory time, same gory place. We're going to be talking about Scream 5 with Carnage Candy, horror movies and beyond, zombie tune, and slasher in suits. It's gonna be so much fun. I'm super excited. We're just chugging our way through all these Scream movies, and it's fun to revisit them and talk about what we love about them. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. You guys are incredible guests. You guys are so knowledgeable and just so easy to talk to, and it's just been awesome having you on the show. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
great.
Anything you guys want to say before we call it a night?
I can't wait for Scream 6. I'm so excited. I can't stop saying it. That's all I got.
Last thing I want to say: 10 days, 16 hours, 49 minutes, and 30 seconds.
I need to get this up.
Oh man, I'll just say hashtag Stu in Scream 7. Stew.
I love it. Stew.
Yeah, baby.
I hope you feel better, my friend.
Thank you.
I will be checking on you. Thank you guys again so much. You're awesome. Thank you everyone in the chat who has joined us today, and the B Movie Coven for supporting the channel. And until we meet again, blessed be.